How much do you know about the history of presidential inaugurations? Do you know the one about the president whose inauguration killed him? Or how about the president whose future assassin was just standing feet away from him during his second inauguration? Or what about one of the worst presidents who made a shocking announcement during his inaugural address? Take a few minutes and test your knowledge by taking our Prez Trivia on presidential inaugurations. Now here's how it works. This is going to be very fast-paced. I read each question, then I give you the answer. If you need a little bit of thinking time, make sure you hit the pause button while I'm reading the question. After I give you the answer, I give a short 30-second explanation and a little bit of historical context. I guarantee you're going to learn some things. And make sure you watch all the way to the end. Some of the more challenging questions are towards the end. Are you ready? Let's go. Who is the oldest president to take the oath of office? Was it William Harrison, Franklin Roosevelt, Ronald Reagan, or Joe Biden? The answer is Joe Biden. For 140 years, William Harrison held the record for being the oldest president to be inaugurated at 68 years of age. Then in 1981, Reagan came along and he was 69 years of age. Then in 1985, during Reagan's second inaugural, he set a new record at 73 years of age. And that record held for the better part of 36 years. And then in 2021, Joe Biden came along and set a brand new record of being the oldest at 78 years of age. And you know, in 2025, when Donald Trump takes the oath of office, he will set the new record at 78 years and about 5 months. Whose assassin attended his second presidential inauguration? Abraham Lincoln, James Garfield, William McKinley, or John Kennedy? The answer is Abraham Lincoln. Now, John Wilkes Booth, the assassin of Abraham Lincoln, claimed he attended Lincoln's second inaugural. In fact, he told some of his closest friends that he had an excellent chance to kill Lincoln. And there was really very little to validate Booth's claims until 1956, when Life magazine did an article and offered proof. And you can see how very crowded Lincoln's inaugural was around the platform and every area around the platform. And you can see Booth has been spotted standing in the reserved platform near Lincoln, just feet away. And it was just 41 days later that Booth actually killed President Abraham Lincoln at Ford's Theater. Who is the only president to be widowed between his election and his inauguration? Was it George Washington, Andrew Jackson, James Polk, or William McKinley? The answer is Andrew Jackson. Now, Rachel Jackson, who was 61 years of age, she died of a sudden heart attack just 3 months before Andrew Jackson's inauguration. And Jackson believed his political enemies were the ones responsible for her death. And he said he would never forgive them for what they did. And so you have to have a little bit of context. Election of 1828 was one of the ugliest and most vicious presidential elections in modern times, up to that point in time. Jackson's character was attacked during that election. His leadership and his behavior during the War of 1812 was heavily criticized. Jackson's parents were ridiculed and attacked in the press. And Jackson's wife, Rachel, was accused of being an adulterer and a bigamist, of being married to 2 men at the same time. And that's why Jackson took it so personal. He believed those vicious attacks, personal attacks on his character and on his wife, had led to her early death. And when they buried Rachel at the Hermitage there, they actually buried her in the white dress that she had purchased for her husband's inauguration. This here is a picture of the locket that Jackson carried with him of Rachel the rest of his life. Which US president in his inaugural address surprised many by announcing he wouldn't run for a second term? Was it James Buchanan, Ulysses S. Grant, Gerald Ford, or Jimmy Carter? The answer is James Buchanan. Now, this would never happen in today's political climate, believe me. But James Buchanan, in his speech, started off by, he was very humble and said he was very grateful for the opportunity that he's been given being elected president, but he said he was not going to be a candidate for re-election. Buchanan ranks by many historians as one of the worst presidents in U.S. history. And consistently, poll after poll, historians rank him as one of the worst. And his presidency was marred with conflict during those 4 years. You had all of the violence that continued to happen out in Kansas, we call Bleeding Kansas. It's during this time while he's president that John Brown made his famous raid on Harper's Ferry. And the sectional differences in the country were created during this time period, and even in a greater fashion, to where it created great division in the Congress. And Buchanan is criticized for his actions or his inactions as the country really was beginning to split apart. And maybe it's a good thing that Buchanan promised that he would only do one term, because really I believe the honest truth is he had no chance of being reelected. Whose presidential inauguration is blamed for his death? Is it James Monroe, William Harrison, Abraham Lincoln, or William McKinley? The answer is William Harrison. In 1840, William Harrison, old Tippecanoe, was elected president of the United States. And at that time, I told you earlier, he was the oldest man elected president at 68 years of age. And that's a big deal because life expectancy for a male back in the 1840s was only 40 years of age, believe it or not. But he came to his inauguration. It was a cold and windy day, we're told. Some said it was wet as well. But Harrison refused to wear a coat and a hat, and many believe it was just in an attempt to prove that he could brave the elements given his age. But he gave the longest inaugural speech in history to date, 8,445 words. And it actually took him 2 hours to deliver that speech. Can you imagine standing and listening to someone give a 2-hour inaugural address? Well, it's this setting that historians for years have said that it's his inauguration that killed him. It was the cold weather. It was the fact that it was wet. He wore no hat. He wore no coat. And we know later on he caught pneumonia, and we're told that he suffered for weeks and was bedridden, and then he dies. And they blame it on his inauguration. But recent historians have really pointed out some good facts, which I really think changes the entire narrative. Harrison, we know for a fact, did not get pneumonia until about 3 weeks later. And had the inauguration been the cause, he would have caught pneumonia right away, but he didn't. It was only 3 weeks later, and historians' new view is that what killed him was not his inauguration, but it was likely the contaminated water from Washington, D.C. So the inauguration really didn't kill William Harrison. How many questions did you get correct out of, and what did you learn new that you found interesting? Leave your thoughts and your comments in the comment section below. Hey, if you liked what you saw today, you actually learned something, you got value from it, hit the like button for us. And if you haven't joined our Prez Politics family yet, hit the subscribe button now. Hey, if you like what you saw today, check out our other videos on our channel. I guarantee you'll love them.